abduction experiencers to tell their stories without initial judgments or interpretations, knowing there is always time to assess the messenger and the message later. In this regard, clinicians have a certain advantage, for in working with other human beings, we have always relied heavily on empathy and intuition, on the use of ourselves as the instruments of knowing. We are accustomed to uncertainty and to immersing ourselves in the varieties and mysteries of human experience. John E. Mack, M.D., Boulder, Colorado. Part 1. One tentative step on the end of my bed, and I found my familiar panic. It was now fully on the bed, and I was fully awake. Then it let me open my eyes. Jesus Christ, you look like a fucking bug. Chapter 1. Abduction, the Next Generation. The power of the encounters comes from acknowledging your helplessness and keeping the whole matter in question, because the deeper the question goes, the more you attempt to come to some kind of resolution. If you keep asking them, the beings, questions, they keep performing the thing in such a way that the questions get more provocative but can't quite be answered. If you start saying, well, they're aliens and they're from this planet, you're lost. I've often been in situations where the question has been impossible to live with. You can't not answer it, and you can't answer it either. And there you have it. You sit in a situation where you can't bear to be, and you grow. Whitley Strieber, interview with the author, Wagner, South Dakota, June 16, 1996. Background. In the years since the publication of Abduction in 1994, I've worked with more than 100 additional people in the United States and other countries who report encounters with strange beings. These individuals are called abductees, experiencers, or anomalous experiencers. Finding appropriate language, as we shall see, has become an increasingly difficult problem. The alien abduction phenomenon can be defined as the experience of being taken by humanoid beings, usually but not always against the person's will, into some sort of enclosure where a variety of procedures and communications occur. Not all of the encounters described in this book are typical or classical in the sense of being intrusive and or traumatic. As you will see, the experiences of Carlos Diaz, Jean, Sequoia, and Gary, for example, are not typical, and I do not have evidence that Bernardo or the children at the Ariel School were actually abducted by the beings they saw, although their encounters affected them profoundly. I believe that including a somewhat wider range of experiences is likely to add to our understanding. In this book, I will tell what I have learned from my further explorations. My understanding of the meaning and power of this extraordinary phenomenon, especially its relationship to the planet's ecological crisis, is continually evolving. I will set forth the consistent patterns that seem to be emerging, as well as the contradictions and paradoxes that persist. The implications of these experiences for our understanding of ourselves in this universe will, I think, be reflected in each chapter of the book. Before telling of the findings that have led me to my present viewpoint, I thought it might be useful to share with the reader where I have arrived, or have been taken, philosophically speaking, by my immersion in this fascinating and compelling work. There's been a continuing evolution of my perspective regarding the data itself, the most effective method of bringing it forth, and the most useful way of interpreting the material. I've tried to be scrupulous in my observations and analysis, but I recognize that in the end, what I have done will always, to some degree, remain idiosyncratic. That is, it is the product of the interplay of my own psyche or consciousness with the experiences of others. I was raised in a secular American family of German Jewish heritage. The idea of a great bearded figure suspended somehow in the heavens was the only representation of God I remember being taught, and my logical, rational mind rejected this notion as impossible and absurd. Spirituality was a vaguely pleasant but unrealistic concept. My father, a professor of English at New York City College, read the Bible to my sister and me as culture and literature. In medical school, any thought that the complex life forms we were studying were created by purpose or intelligent design, rather than simply through Darwinian selection, was disparagingly labeled teleology, a kind of academic expletive. The experiences of native peoples with spirit